What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Like always, like and subscribe and leave a comment down below and hit the notification bell. Today, we're going to be doing our book review over Dean Koontz, The Voice of the Night. Now, Dean Koontz is probably one of my favorite authors of all time. And over the years, throughout my life, since probably about 11 years old, when I did read, which wasn't often, I would just read Koontz and King and R.L. Stine. That's pretty much it. I didn't really venture out of those three. So I'm finally getting back into horror after a long hiatus, and I put a poll out and asked people to vote, and when I closed the poll, when I finished The Forgetting Moon, this was the leading one. So, and then after the fact, somebody still voted. But anyways, so this book was weird to me. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 just because it definitely kept me wanting to come back, and I wanted to see what was going to happen, but it was slow. The whole entire book there was really no action, period, honestly. I mean, there was a bit of cat and mouse going on in it towards the end, but it's really super ominous. Like, it's just an eerie, cringy type of book, like, the whole time. So basically, you meet two young teenage boys, Roy and Colin. Colin is timid, shy, gets no attention from his mother. She's a super SLUT, and she's always off banging her coworkers from work. And she says she's working late, but we know what that means. So he's starved for attention. His mother's divorced from his dad. His dad's a psycho, crazy redneck, and so he doesn't have anything in common with his dad, because he's like a your average teenage angst horror nerd. You know what I mean? He just loves horror. His mom thinks it's trash. His dad thinks it's stupid. So he has nothing in common with anybody. Well, he and his mom moved to a new place. There he meets Roy. Insert Roy. Roy's a complete psychopath, just born from evil. He's nuts in the head. He's a whack job. He likes to kill things, and when he does it, he gauges it on what he calls, a hell of a popper. So basically, he's everybody likes Roy. He's very manipulative. He knows how to suck up to anybody and everybody. And he finds in Colin someone easy to manipulate to try to convince him to do bad things with him. And Colin's halfway convinced, really. I mean, they're about to bust into the adult neighbor's house from Roy in the middle of the book and RAPE her and kill her young kid. But Colin is able to see a bunch of flaws in the plan and tells Roy they can't do this. Colin finally comes to his senses when Roy and him go to a junkyard, and Roy has it all set up to push this old truck down this hill to wreck into a passenger train just at the right time to derail it and kill all the passengers. Finally, Colin realizes, this is terrible. I don't want to be a part of this, and he snaps out of it finally, you know what I mean? He gets in his senses. Well, that makes Roy mad. Roy wants to kill him. So then, you go through about, 50 pages of a really good cat and mouse scene. Like, it has you on the edge. You're like, what's going to happen? Colin is feeling it. Dean Koontz is a master of the craft, so all the emotions come through. Even in this early works, which is from, 1980? It's 1980 something. 1980, and then it was republished again in 81 and 91. And the cover photograph was by Jerry Bauer. I do like looking into those things. I meant to do that before the video, but I picked up the book this morning at 5:30 a.m. I read it before work. I read it on my lunch break, and then I got home and finished it. The thing about Dean Koontz and me is I'm so familiar with his writing is I could fly through it and enjoy every second. And this book was really good. It was Roy sequences when he's talking and trying to convince Colin of doing stuff. He is a complete, utter cringe fest to the max. It's crazy, man. And it's crazy to see how Koontz wrote back in the 80s. If you've read any of his stuff from, 2005 and on, it's completely different. His 80s stuff was just a unique presence among horror authors. And it's a great book. So anyways, Colin, tries to tell his mother that Roy tried to kill him. His mom thinks he was popping pills and on drugs because Roy convinced her of this. So Colin's all alone. He ends up meeting a girl who basically becomes his girlfriend in the story and someone he can confide in. Well, she ends up telling him she never liked Roy anyways, and then Colin lets loose and tells her everything that's gone on in this month he's known Roy. So they had to plan. Well, Colin had the plan already hatched to basically trap Roy in his lies, his web of lies, and make him admit the killer that he is. So Roy had a reason why he was a psychopathic killer. I won't spoil that part of the story, but it's explained. And hang on, I gotta stop and tell my wife the kid's about to pull a 1-gallon steel jug on his head. You never know. Anyways, he's not crying in this video, so we'll count that as an excellent plus. I don't want to give too many spoilers away. The book is short at 338 pages. And it's super good. Like, from the get-go, Roy has you cringing. You're wondering, is Colin... The whole time I'm like, Colin's gonna fall for this. They're gonna RAPE and murder somebody together. But it never happens, you know what I mean? It just never happens. The book takes a turn, and it's just like, wow. But it's a slow burn. The whole entire book is a slow burn. So if you go into it, you know, expecting some monster stuff or something like that, I mean, you get a monster, but you get a real life monster. You know what I mean? That's what's freaky is there's people out there like that with Roy's problems, his psychological issues. It is just a, you know, he's about to grab a bowl of noodles off the counter and he will start grubbing. The dude is our son of ours is a wild wildebeest. He's not even 1 yet, but he's like 100 pounds. It's crazy. He's a big giant baby. But anyways, Dean Koontz, I am hooked on horror again. It's been a little over a year since I've even thought about horror. I got out of it because I thought it was affecting me mentally, but it turns out it was the pills the doctors prescribed me for my bad heart. Got off all that on the carnivore diet. I don't know why I tell you people these things, but I think it's fun to tell y'all. So finally, you know, all my problems went away on the carnivore diet. You know, do with that what you will. You know what I mean? I try to tell people about it, but they're like, you're just going to die. But all I've had is ground beef and coffee for 260 days. And I feel pretty good. You know what I mean? I feel pretty good. But anyways, Dean Koontz, the voice of the night. Solid 9 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I you know what? I enjoyed it so much that I went and bought an eBay lot of vintage horror books from the 80s. I bought a few books off Amazon. I'm going to buy a few more. Me and my wife are going to have a movie night watching some 80s horror. Tomorrow, I'm shooting this on March 26th. On March 27th, we're going to enjoy a movie night. It's been so long since we watched any raunchy, cheesy horror. And then at the end of April, we're going to finally go to the bookstore in our area and probably spend about $100 on vintage horror because we're getting the new house. I'm going to shelve up an entire room and just, you know, do what we finally wanted to do. So next up, and I'll finish this probably by Sunday the 29th and record the review. I don't know when the review will drop, but it will drop. Don't Go to Wheelchair Camp by David Irons. This is an indie author. This book came out in 2021. I read it when it came out, so this will be my second read of it. It's absolutely 80s vibes to the max, and that reminds me, that's what I wanted to talk about. Dean Koontz does such a great job in this book with his 80s vibes throughout it. You feel like you're there in the 80s in this town of Santa Leona. You feel like you're traveling with these kids as they are doing the crazy stuff they're doing, and it is good. Like, Dean Koontz does good. And look at that stash on that back cover. I mean, come on. You know, I'm a mustache connoisseur, and he's got a good one back then. If you don't follow Dean Koontz on Facebook, you should. He's freaking hilarious. So, Dean Koontz, voice of the night, 9 out of 10. I loved it. If you haven't read it, which I'm sure many of you that are watching the video have, then, but if you haven't, you should. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Hit the notification bell. Later.